That committee has not been set yet. And we will move on to comments from the executive branch with President Fritz.
Hello, everyone. Is this on? Hello. All right, well, I hope everyone had a great summer. I'm so excited to be back, so welcome back to campus. I can't wait to see what you guys all get done this year. So I just sent out my executive update. It should be in your email inboxes by now. But my summer was pretty busy with, fall planning, the academic continuity work group. So basically anything related to classes is what I was working on this summer and how those are set up in, the age of COVID-19. So that was very busy. If you have any questions on that, feel free to let me know. Our Director of Communications, Anna Olson, also helped Eliana Crabb, our Director of Outreach, put on a social justice forum. So that was a really good thing, I think, just to kind of create some conversations surrounding that and the current climate that we have. And so, Chief of Police Michael Newton, Dean of Students Sharon Evans, Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion Reg Stewart, Black Student Alliance President India Robinson, and President Wendy Winterstein all took place in that, and that's available on the YouTube channel if you have not had the opportunity to watch that. I also took place in the Senior Vice President of Student Affairs search. So recently, Dr. Toya Younger joined us, and so her first day was on Monday, and so I'm really excited to see all that she does this year in addition to helping out student government. Medical amnesty was signed into law by Governor Reynolds on June 25th. It was kind of a long 5 years of lobbying and advocating from legislative ambassadors to Iowa State along with the other regent universities. So that was a big success, I think, and I'm super excited, for the implications of that for safety for students. The Board of Regents also voted to not raise tuition for the fall semester. We are in the fall semester, you guys know that. But that I think was a good thing as well, just with the current conditions, and along with various meetings with other university officials. So in the first week back here, Destination Iowa State happened, and Anna Olson and Eliana Crabb put together an event to welcome new students to campus, and thank you to everyone that was able to help at that and kind of, welcome new students to campus. This semester I'll also be serving on the committee to establish principles on renaming. We've had our first initial meeting, and more meetings will be to come, filled with research and discussion around that. The Welcome Home Cyclones video just came out. It's on the Instagram today, involving various organizations on campus, men and women's basketball, gymnastics, sororities and fraternities, and dance marathon. There was Food at First volunteering over the weekend. I would just like to thank Seba for all of her work and Jennifer Seth for really showing servant leadership during this time for people impacted by the derecho. So I really appreciate you taking the initiative on that. And additionally, the last thing I have is the Cyclone Cares campaign. I put a QR code on the wall over there so nobody has to touch it, but that's how you can sign up for spots to help distribute stickers and other small incentives for people that are wearing masks on campus. As I said in the email earlier to you guys, people know who you are on campus. They elected and appointed you for a reason, so it would be awesome if you could take some time out of your week or the next couple of weeks to help hand those out. But that is all from me. Does anyone have any questions? Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay. Are there any questions for President Fritz? Okay. We will now move on to general orders. 2020-2-001 SD, confirming the nomination of UROC senators with Senator Mass.
Title. All right. So this is a bill. The United residents off campus have had 2 vacancies for Senate seats. Former Senator Sandeep Stanley, who is now our Director of Student Advocates, is also now serving as the president of the UROC Constituency Council, so he has nominated 2 individuals. So with that, if you 2 would come forward here to the podium, and then we can go ahead and let you speak, and we can ask you questions before we formally vote on you.
Yes, so there should be a mic up there, and if you could just let the body know a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in becoming a senator. Sorry, I'll give you this mic. That one doesn't seem to be on right now. Just flip the switch.
It's on. Is it? Yeah. Okay, cool. Repeating. My name is Money. I'm a fourth-year student in aerospace engineering, and I want to be a part of the student government because I believe that it will not only improve my own skills in public speaking or taking leadership and initiative, but it also help the school in this era of COVID-19. So that's a little bit about myself and why I want to join student government. I'll give it off to.
Hello all, my name is Matt Stenzel. I'm a senior studying agricultural business and economics. I'm interested in joining student government as a past senator. I was unfortunately gone in the spring semester and didn't have a chance to campaign. I was given a second chance by Sandeep, and I'm grateful for that opportunity. I love student government and love being able to represent students. Thank you.
Okay, and the reason why it's important to speak into the mic is we are live streaming this video, and especially in this time where not everyone can be here, allowing everyone to stay up informed is really important. So that's why we're gonna stop you if you're not talking with the mic. So now I will entertain, is there any questions for the nominees or comments? Senator Weathers.
Hi, gentlemen. I'm also on the UROC committee. Can you describe the interview process that Stanley went through with you at the time?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that last part?
Yeah, no problem. Can you describe the interview process that Stanley went through with you at the time?
Absolutely. I guess he was a senator at the time. Sandeep and I worked together, was it a year ago, 2 years ago? I lose track of time. We worked together on a few different bills. I feel like we have a pretty solid relationship. He brought me through, just a series of questions, making sure I was ready and capable of handling the position, and here I am.
Well, me and Sandeep have our roommates actually, and we've also been working together in various aerospace classes as partners and teammates. So I believe he not only did he see my capability in performing in student government, but he also noticed that I am interested and capable of working as a senator.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. I yield.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like, or any other member that would like to comment or ask a question?
I call for the question.
There's been a call for a question. There's been a second. Is there any objections? All right. There's been a call for unanimous consent. Is there any objection to approving the nominations by unanimous consent? All right. The nominations have been approved. Congratulations. And Chief Justice Heasley, could you swear our new members in quick? So if you guys could stay up here. Thank you.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I solemnly swear or affirm to execute the duties of my position as prescribed in the Constitution and laws of the government for the benefit of all students. Congratulations.
Yes. All right. We will now, and for a point of information, both of you do have placards that are back there that you can use for the rest of the meeting. Thank you. We will now move on to the next bill, 2020-2-002 electing the new Speaker for the Senate with Senator Mass.
All right, this is the first bill that normally gets considered in session. Obviously, we had nominations to handle first tonight, but this is electing the Speaker of the Senate. The Speaker basically serves a lot of legislative functions in helping the Senate to run. With that, I will, as we pull the bill up. With that, I'm going to move to open the floor for nominations for Speaker.
Okay, so is there any objection to opening the floor for nominations? Okay, so we will open the floor for nominations. Please raise your placard if you would like to nominate a senator for Speaker. Senator Gonzalez.
I nominate Jacob Ludwig.
Okay, Senator Ludwig, do you accept?
I accept.
Senator Ludwig. Your mic.
I nominate Senator Mass.
I accept.
Senator Ludwig, do you yield?
Yes.
Sorry, Senator Gonzalez, I forgot to ask you if you yield. Are there any other senators who would like to nominate a senator? Okay, is there a motion to close the floor for nominations? Okay, there's been a motion to close the floor for nominations. Is there a second? There's been a second. Are there any objections? Okay, there is no objections. So Senator Ludwig will first put his name and Senator Mass's name on the sheet, and then both candidates will approach the lectern and give their reasoning for why they would like to. And then we will have a debate among ourselves, or the members will have a debate over who they would like to see elected, and then we will have a election similar to we had in the mock meeting. So Senator Ludwig, it looks like you showed up first, so I'll let you. There is a 5-minute limit. And Senator Dwight, if you could handle being vice speaker for a little bit while the other members are up. Thank you.
All right. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jacob Ludwig, and I'm a third-year student double majoring in economics and political science. I'm from Ankeny, Iowa, though I was actually born here in Ames, and I lived just north here in Gilbert till I was about 8. This is going to be my 3rd year in student government and my 2nd year in Senate. I originally joined student government in the fall of my freshman year as a legislative ambassador, and I was elected to the Senate later that year. As a member of the Senate, I've served on the Senate Rules Committee, the Court Reform Task Force, and worked on a number of projects. I've also worked with the university on some university committees, such as the Lectures Committee, the Department of Public Safety Advisory Board, and the Transportation Advisory Council, among others. And outside of student government, I've been the president of the First Year Council, which is a leadership organization for first-year students. And more recently, I've been involved with the City of Ames as a commissioner on the Parks and Recreations Commission and a trustee on the SciRide Board of Trustees. Now, those are all some things that I've done, in student government, on campus, and in our community. But what I want to talk to you about today is what I want to do and how I want to serve you all as your next speaker. And that basically breaks down into 3 main areas of focus for me. 1, supporting you all as senators. 2, securing student government's financial situation. And 3, reimagining the way that we advocate for students on large issues. So let me talk about that first area, which is supporting you all as senators. The speaker has a lot of really important obligations doled out to them in the bylaws, and those are important, and I feel more than capable of handling them. But I think a good speaker does more than just what's there. I think what a good speaker does, what a good speaker tries to do, is support and invest in you as individual senators, because your success is my success. Your success is student government's success, and that success is good for students. And so that's going to be my focus, and I'm going to focus on that by being an available resource for you and creating resources. In terms of being available, the speaker is required to serve 10 office hours a week. I'm obviously going to do that, but I don't want it to just be that the speaker's there a lot. I want it to be the speaker's right there right now, and I know that. And to achieve that, I'm going to schedule my office hours at specific points throughout the week so you know when I'm there, and you can call me, text me, email me, come see me, and we can talk about whatever bill, project, or initiative you have questions about. You can get the answers you need and keep moving. And then in terms of creating resources, I really want to work to kind of create resources and then revamp some of the resources that we have in terms of, writing bills, dealing with the bylaws, starting projects, stuff like that, the stuff that you guys need to get going and do the work for your constituents, because that stuff really matters. Getting as much done as we can for our constituents is what's important. And then I also want to spend some time, developing and planning more working meetings, which for new senators, that's something where we meet about an hour before our regular meeting, and we talk over some big project or initiative or something that's happening in student government. I find that it's generally more productive for having a real conversation about what's going on rather than kind of trying to get through the Roberts rules in the middle of a Senate meeting, which isn't always that helpful. My second area of focus, which is securing student government's financial situation, is also going to be very important to me. As many of you know, we're in something of a tough spot, to put it lightly, right now. And so, if elected, I'm going to work very closely with the president and the finance director to find real solutions to those problems. But ultimately, those decisions are going to have to be made here and by us. And that means we need to make informed decisions. And I have no doubt that the finance director, when they're selected, will help in that process. But I also think there's ways that the speaker can help. Specifically, one of the things that I want to do is make sure that the first thing the Rules Committee does is create the annual report on student government contracts and agreements. This is something the Rules Committee has been charged with creating for a number of years now. It has failed to do so in recent years for a number of reasons that I can get into later if you're interested. But ultimately, it's going to be the first thing that I focus on so that, when we start talking about these contracts and agreements potentially later in this semester, we can make informed decisions about what the costs and the benefits are of these contracts, and we can chart a good financial course for our future in student government. And my final area of focus, which is, reimagining the way that we advocate for students on large issues, I think one of the things that student government can do really poorly from time to time is deal with the big things that kind of pop up randomly in the middle of the year. I'm talking about trademark, free speech zones, the racist events that happened on campus last year. I think we fail to meet the moment on these issues because we don't have the structures through which to respond adequately. And so what I want to do is create a campus affairs committee that exists year-round, assigned to deal with issues of campus climate, student rights, stuff like that, so that we have dedicated members of student government year-round focused on these issues, working to make progress and, get ahead of the curve on these issues, and then deal with the big stuff that pops up. Rather than the Senate just passing resolutions and putting out statements, we can have dedicated individuals in student government focused on these issues year-round. Obviously, brief overview of what I want to do, so I look forward to your questions, and thank you for your time.
Yeah. Sorry. We'll save applause for after someone's elected. Thank you, clerk. Senator Mass.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Mass. I'm a senior this year studying software engineering and minoring in political science. This is now my third term in the Senate, and it's been quite an adventurous ride, and I've really enjoyed it, so I hope that all of you now, too, as we begin a new year, will really have a great time with it. Just to talk a little bit about some things that I've done with StuGov and other organizations on campus. I've been a part of the Rules Committee here for the past 3 terms as well. I've really enjoyed that. Along with Senator Schrader at the time and other senators, we worked on court reform last year, which was a gigantic piece of legislation that I'm very proud of. And additionally, this summer, as we've started working on COVID planning and that sort of thing, I've been a part of that group that's helped to start planning the bill that you'll all see later tonight about how we as StuGov are going to respond to all of that. As speaker, obviously, there's the very mundane, boring rules of you sit up at the front, you help determine things with Robert's rules, you help, run the screen if the vice speaker needs that, things like that. But I really think that the role of the speaker is much more in that. It's much more about setting a vision for the Senate and where we want to go throughout the year. Certainly, all of you guys have a role in that as well, but I want to sort of just start setting the tone of where I think we should start going for the year. First, I do agree with Senator Ludwig a lot about what we're talking about financially. This year is a tough year for us, having to deal with budget cuts within the university, but also having to deal with the repercussions of sending people home in the spring. And now we have to deal with the decline in enrollment as well this fall. So I think we as StuGov need to seriously take a look at what we're spending money on. We need to really prioritize what are the things that we as StuGov can really add value to. Where can we spend our money that really makes a difference and makes a difference in the lives of students? And what are some of the areas that are a little less priority? That in a normal year, maybe we would spend money on to help make lives better for students, but in this year, maybe we need to look at making cuts in those areas. So that's a hard decision, but I think that's one that this Senate is really up to as we start moving forward with that. In addition, I think another area that we can definitely improve as student government is in our elections area. You all obviously went through the elections process here fairly recently this March, and I think there's definitely a large barrier for entry. As we look at election code, and it's incredibly long, it's hard for students to understand. It's hard for them who maybe have interest in student government from really getting involved because they don't understand how exactly the process works. So I really want us to focus this year on how do we make student government more approachable? How do we work through that? And I think there's some ways that we can improve our elections through that. One way, for example, too, with election commission. Currently, we lack an adversarial process in election commission. I think that's something that we could definitely benefit from. There are lots of other areas, too, that I think just as we look through election code and we start going through that process, we really need to ask ourselves, how do we make it the best way possible for students who want to get involved to come and serve? Because there's a lot of barriers right now. So those would be my two biggest goals for the semester. In addition to that, obviously, we're going to have to roll with the punches as things come. There are always things each semester that we never expect are going to happen that will. And that's where I think it becomes part of my role to help set you guys up for success in that as well. A large part of that is the mentor-mentee program. Traditionally, that's a role the vice speaker puts on. But I think in addition, we can talk about how exactly does that look in this era of COVID, and how exactly do we work on building strong relationships? Because I know that's probably how I initially made my strongest relationships, was in the mentor-mentee program. But especially now too, I know I made a lot of relationships by sitting down in that Senate office for hours at a time and just talking and having fun and getting to know people. And I think we need to seriously start looking at how do we address that? How do we get to know one another and work cohesively as a body, rather than just individually going about our weeks and then showing up here and expecting to be able to make compromises, expecting to be able to work together. So I think that's another large part of the role as speaker this year, is we need to talk about how are we going to get to know each other, how are we going to work together on things, how are we going to find people who have common interests and work on common bills and get them working and sharing ideas together. So I think that's another large part of my platform. So with that, I have 30 seconds left, so that's about it for me. Thank you all for your time, and I look forward to a great year with all of you.
Okay. And maybe just to help with this first one, so normally or historically, we've had questions asked to nominees for positions, and then the nominees are asked to step out into the hallway for maybe some more candid discussion on the strengths or the weaknesses of each of the candidates. Obviously, nothing is required to be done in order, but they do have to come back into the room for a vote to take place. So Senator or Dwight, would you like to start? No? Oh. Is Senator Zastro?
Hi, I know you both really well. I'm confident that both of you guys would do an excellent job as speaker, and I'd just like to say that. Both of you addressed finance, and obviously we're in a time where the university didn't raise fall tuition, and even though we're all happy that fall tuition is at where it's at, we also know that the financial position of the university is one where they would probably be in a better place if they did raise tuition. Especially considering how low enrollment is. So what are the specific challenges that you see in student government related to finance, and how would you as speaker attempt to tackle those?
Sure, thank you for that question, Mason. So I think first off, we have to acknowledge too that the Iowa legislature has continued to either cut funding or keep funding the same when it needed to be increased over the past 10 years. And certainly that's why tuition has gone up. That's a part of our role as student government, to lobby down there at the Capitol, to get to know those representatives and really make the case for why Iowa State needs to continue to be funded so that we can keep tuition dollars down. So I think we can all agree on that, certainly, and that's definitely a role of of our student government. I think in addition to that too, we've kind of, within student government, had the luxury of being able to look at our special projects account and just being able to say, oh, there's a lot of money in there for a rainy day someday if we ever wanted to, throw a concert on Central Campus or, something like that. And this year, we're going to have to look at tapping into that account just to pay for what we normally would when we're funding clubs in order to have multicultural events on campus, homecoming, those sort of normal things that we would normally budget for. So I think we definitely need to look at what our priorities and criteria are again. We look at those every year, but we need to really look this year. And if we need to start looking at areas to cut, that's where we need to go. But I think even more important than that, we need to have a discussion too about, with COVID, what happens if we get sent home again in the fall. Part of our responsibility as the Senate is electing someone to the Student Fees and Tuition Committee, in addition to our president and our finance director and a nominee of the president serving on that board. And they're the ones who decide, okay, if we get sent home, are students going to continue to pay for LEAD? Are they going to continue to pay for SciRide? We need to start having conversations about those things as well. Because at the end of the day, that's probably the thing financially that students care about the most next to tuition. So those are a couple ideas that I have, Senator Zastro.
Yeah, so I agree with Senator Mass on a lot of that. Lobbying is definitely something that we're going to have to take a swing at, especially now that we've passed medical amnesty. I think we can dedicate a lot more lobbying time to that, but I think it's important to acknowledge that that is a very, very steep uphill battle for us. And so we're going to have to spend a lot more time talking about our financials. And my first priority is going to be clubs, making sure that we can continue to fund clubs and create a good atmosphere for students here on campus. And so I think we're going to have to take a look at the contracts that we have, and we're going to have to make some decisions about what we're funding. Those are some tough calls, and it's not going to be fun, but I think that's where the bulk of kind of our committed, where we can cut a lot of committed spending to make room for the continuation of funding clubs, because I think we've got to make that our first priority above everything else. So.
Thank you both. And then just one other question I had. I believe it was Senator Mass. You mentioned that we currently lack an adversarial process in the Election Commission. Could you just explain more?
Yeah, I can certainly talk about that. So election code and election commission has been something that I think has been badly in need of an overhaul over the past several years. And we've basically been making small changes instead of really digging down and trying to find what are some structural things that we can change to just make the process better. So for an example, for election commission, one thing that does kind of concern me is that we elect an election commissioner, and then we elect election commission members who are in charge of both investigating and judging whether or not something was wrong. And then, so it inherently puts at a disadvantage people who are accused of election violations. In a normal adversarial process, you have someone in charge of investigating, you have someone in charge of defending themselves, and then you have a neutral third party who judges the case. So I think that's something that we can definitely look at improving. Is there a way that we could maybe implement that into the way that our election commission currently works? And, you know, that's something I would definitely want Rules Committee to start looking into.
All right, I have like 10 seconds. Ludwig, if you want to say something about that, you can too.
Yeah, this is also something I'd like to spend some time on. I think the Election Commission could use a lot of restructuring, and I think me and Mass have actually talked a lot about that in the past. So,
Senator Springer.
May I address Senator Ludwig?
Yes.
I don't know if I have to do that. I really am interested by your comment on creating a new committee specifically for student issues that come up through the year. Can you talk a little more about specifics with that and what exactly you think, I guess just what they would be doing day to day?
yeah, of course. This is something that is kind of based off an idea I had last year in response to some of those racist events that happened. I had worked with Speaker Culbertson to establish an ad hoc committee in relation to that. But I kind of realized that just a temporary committee wasn't necessarily a good idea because we need to be prepared for these things. And so I think the committee needs to be structured in a way that both unifies student government in terms of perspective and then brings student voices into the conversation. So I think having some senators and then some either cabinet officials selected or just certain officials assigned the role of being on the committee is going to be important. And then having a equal number of at-large students on the committee so that we can get, perspectives from just general students, because I think sometimes, student government has a lot of good intentions, but we do get kind of stuck in a bubble from time to time, especially if you're, running from meeting to meeting, you might not be as caught up with everything. And that's just kind of like the general structure, and I want it to focus, like I said, on campus climate and like student rights and similar area stuff. But I also kind of want to establish or get a group of senators together and other members of student government to kind of iron out specifics. This is obviously something I want to see created, but I am more than welcome to working with others to, get the fine-tuned stuff decided on.
Thank you, I yield.
Senator Gonzalez.
Okay, I just want to preface this by saying that I think both of these senators would do an absolutely amazing job as speaker, but I do have a question. So one of the large duties of the speaker is to host an annual retreat. And I know that you mentioned something about the mentor-mentee program, which, as you mentioned, was traditionally held as a responsibility by the vice speaker. But I just want to hear you guys both speak a little bit about what this retreat would look like, especially due to the pandemic.
Yeah, so this is something that Senator Mass, myself, Schrader, and Advait have talked about kind of over the summer a little bit. Obviously, it has to look different than what we've done in previous years. What I'm thinking, just kind of based off the conversations we've had, is we're probably going to have it here on campus, rent out a lecture hall or something, and it's probably just going to be an afternoon, a couple hours. So we're going to really have to condense. I think it's just important that we focus on getting the basic stuff in. So, talk about financials, talk about some structures in student government, prepare cabinet and Senate officials for their roles and kind of give them a bigger context, and goal setting. I think we're gonna have to cram that in. We can't necessarily do as much of the fun get to know you stuff that we've typically done. I think that's important, and I think we should find other ways to do that. Maybe through the mentor-mentee program. I'd love to see if there are ways to kind of work that to make that functional. But everyone's health and safety, not just ours, but the campus, it comes first. And so I think we're gonna definitely have to cut back a lot on that and just prioritize the big stuff.
Thank you for the question, Senator Gonzalez. And yeah, I certainly agree with everything that Ludwig just said. I was in the very early stages over spring break of beginning to look at what it might look like for a normal fall retreat, and obviously with COVID, that's just simply not possible this semester. But I think we need to really look at what is the goal of that retreat. And I think the two biggest goals that we have in that retreat is, number one, we want our senators to be able to get to know each other and really trust each other and work with each other, which is something I've already addressed in my speech earlier. But I think the other part too is we really want to build bonds between the executive branch, the judicial branch, and the legislative branch. Because it's very easy for us to sort of silo ourselves into, well, I just go to Senate on Wednesday, or, I just show up at cabinet, or, I just show up at Supreme Court meetings. And I think it's really important that we work together across those branches. Because the reality is that good ideas don't just come from Senate. They don't just come from cabinet. Certainly we have our own unique roles, in how this whole process is supposed to work in a 3-branch system. But when we can really work together and talk about, this is how cabinet can play a role into this big mission of this thing that we want to do, whatever that is, and how can we get senators involved with that, we really need to start sparking those conversations, and I think the retreat is the place to have that. Obviously, this year, we need to talk about social distancing. We need to talk about limiting contact as much as possible due to COVID. But I think that there are creative ways that we can do that through lecture halls on campus, through doing some sort of virtual aspect of that as well. There's obviously a lot of planning involved, and now with the changes of football schedules and stuff like that, we don't have a solid date for you, as I'd already started looking at that. But I'm hopeful that we'll definitely be able to put together a really productive event for that very soon.
Thank you. I yield.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Senator Dwight. Oh, yeah, my bad.
Hello. First of all, both of these really great people for the position. I've seen them work all last year, and they're going to do great. But so considering there's a lot of turnover in Senate, and a lot of the people here are new, how exactly are you planning on making all of the new senators feel at home, feel comfortable, and most importantly, engender a sense of community and bring everyone together in the context of pandemic and social distancing? And I know this isn't an official function of the speaker, but it's been an unofficial function that past speakers have fulfilled. And I know you talked about this tangentially, just in more detail, I suppose.
Thank you, Senator Evade. I think that's certainly a really important issue. And it's something that I kind of touched on a little. So my story of coming to Senate is a little different than most, because I was not elected in general election. Actually, Senator Stenzel was in my position before me, and unfortunately had to leave, that semester. And so I was elected in a special election and came in, I believe my first meeting, we were voting on PNC or something like that, which you'll all learn is a very long, drawn-out debate. So I kind of jumped right in and didn't have much of an idea of what was going on for a lot of that first meeting. So I think there's a lot of resources that we can provide to you through the speakership, obviously just getting you comfortable, but I think a lot of it is a level of trust too, and getting to know the speaker personally. I know that was certainly the case with Speaker Culbertson last year. I knew that I could always show up in the Senate office during her office hours and be able to talk to her and be able to work out my questions and really, have that listening ear that's able to help me work through things. So that's definitely something that I would want to be able to provide to you as well. Obviously, the Senate office is a little different this year with a maximum capacity of 6 in it. But, I would definitely want to make myself as available as possible to you and really seek to get to know all of you, as well as then being able to provide any knowledge that I have with a little bit more experience just to help you get comfortable in your positions, get to know how you can really make things happen here. So that'd be my answer.
Yeah, so I also touched on this a little bit, just kind of tangentially. It's just obviously being a presence around student government, and that's kind of why I was earlier I talked about scheduling my office hours, just so people know when I'm there and they can come talk to me, so we can start working on building that community and creating resources and stuff like that. I think giving you guys the tools to succeed just will help you feel more comfortable in your roles. I'm also just generally open to working with anyone on anything. Like I said, your success is my success, and so I want to work with you guys. I'm definitely going to reach out a lot, and just, you guys are going to be my top priority, and that's what I'll focus on most throughout the year. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? So I think possible motions could be to ask the nominees to step in the hall to allow more candid discussion on their strengths and weaknesses, or if the body is comfortable going directly into a vote, you could also do. Senator Weathers.
I would like to move both the candidates to step out into the hall.
Okay. You good? They're going voluntarily, so we can just skip the seconding process. Take it if you need it. Okay. Senator Weathers, the floor is still yours.
Going in, I was undecided on either of these candidates, although I know them both. I met with them on occasion last year, and if I had to decide, even post-speech, I'd probably have to say Senator Mass would be my preference. As I understand it, even though I'm a first-year senator, the speaker should be incredibly approachable and willing to work with senators. And I think they both would do a good job of that, as was stated multiple times, but Senator Mass was always a little bit more approachable to me. And he's a little bit friendlier, a little bit more willing to work with me, always showed me the ropes. So for all the new senators, I think if you're looking for that aspect in a new speaker, Mass would be your choice. I yield.
Any further discussion? Perhaps senators that are returning could give some insight onto their personal experiences. Senator Gonzalez.
Hi, everyone. Well, yeah, I was a baby freshman last year, and I joined first-year council because I really wanted to be involved in the university and representing students. And it was actually Senator Ludwig who reached out to me about joining as an IRHA senator because he knew that I would be passionate about it. I think he's a really great guy. As I said before, I think both of these senators would do an absolute great job at this. But I think Ludwig has the communication ability and the understanding and knowledge of rules and how student government can be the most efficient that it can be. Again, I think both of them are great and have the absolute possibility to fulfill this role greatly. But I will be voting for Ludwig, and so I would just give you the just like the story that like Ludwig is very approachable, not to go back to what Dawson said, or to Senator Weathers, but I do think Ludwig is very approachable. I think he'd do a great job communicating. The speaker does do a lot of representation for student government when it comes to university like meetings and stuff like that, so just to keep that in mind. I yield.
Thank you. And as a reminder to Senator, you are allowed 2 speaking privileges. So Senator Gonzalez, you have exhausted your speaking privileges for this bill. Senator Stenzel.
Yeah, I have actually never been on student government at the same time as Zachary Mass before. However, I have worked with him in numerous capacities since freshman year. He is perhaps one of the most knowledgeable persons on just general rules of anybody that I've ever met. He's truly impressive, and I can really attest to his ability to lead a group efficiently. I think he is going to be somebody that gets things done and also has those soft skills where you can go into a room and talk with him for hours at a time, as I know I have done. And I'm going to be voting for Senator Mass. As other senators have stated, I'm sure they'd both be phenomenal candidates, but my support will be behind Senator Mass today. I yield.
Thank you. As information to senators, there are 3 minutes left on the bill. A motion to extend debate could be used to add time to allow more debate if desired. Oh, we've 15 minutes left, sorry. My bad. It's hard to read lips with masks on. Senator Springer.
Just to echo what everyone is saying, I think that they would both be great. I've actually known Senator Ludwig since elementary school, and I've taken multiple classes with Senator Mass, and I think that they're both great people, and more importantly, I think whoever wins will, I think they'll still work together to do the job well, whoever wins. However, I am leaning towards Senator Ludwig because I really liked the suggestion for I don't remember exactly what he called it, but the committee that he wants to do and enact for meeting student needs immediately. And I agree that that was a problem with student government last year with some of the things that happened on campus. And I think that concern was something that was missing in Senator Mass's speech. But again, I think that they would both do great. I just thought that was very telling of Senator Ludwig's care for the whole student body and his concerns for making student government a great place for outreach and a great voice for student need. So I will be voting for Senator Ludwig. I yield.
All right. Sorry to interrupt you, Senator Dwight, but you're up. Move it up.
Great. So obviously we're all going to have our own opinions, and I'm just going to say both of these candidates are going to be phenomenal. Just to add more perspective, as someone who's been here about as long as, well, Senator Ludwig, so I've been here 1 year. Senator Ludwig, what stands out to me about him is his drive and he just doesn't sit still. He is out there and he wants to get stuff done. He actually ran for vice speaker last year. First thing, that was his first day of Senate, and he had the courage to go up there and run for a position, which respect, and I could never do that myself. I think I'm personally going to be voting for Senator Ludwig because I think he has what it takes to actually push the position forward. But also, everyone's great who's running. I yield.
Thank you. Senator Zastro.
I think one of the most important things that a speaker does is chair the Rules Committee. The Rules Committee proposes bylaw changes. They make sure that the bylaw changes conform with existing rules, and all around the Rules Committee kind of shapes how student government is structured. I really want you guys to just consider who's going to be leading those meetings. I don't mean to weigh that in favor of one candidate or another, but that's probably the biggest role that the speaker plays from a legislative perspective. And I'll yield.
Senator Fahim.
Okay, so I'll be voting for Senator Ludwig. To echo what Senator Springer said, I believe that council or advisory committee that I wanted to make would be very effective. Having a committee that could directly talk to what students need in the moment is something that student government has a bit of a gap in. So having that committee would be a great addition, and so I believe Senator Ludwig would be a good pick for that. I yield my time.
Is there any further discussion?
Call the question.
Um,
I take it back.
okay. Senator Klaptatauskas. And if I'm saying your last name right or wrong, please correct me. You press up by the top of the button, it generally works a little better. Thank you.
Call the question.
Would you, I would ask that you give time for the candidates to come back in before you make the motion.
I take it back.
Senator Zastruk, are you willing to go? Thank you. Senator Gonzalez, would you like to make your motion?
Yes, I call the question.
All right, there's been a call to question. There's been a second. Is there any objection? Okay, we will move into a vote, a placard vote. If you would like Senator Ludwig to serve as speaker, please raise your placard. If you would like Senator Mass, please raise your placard. With a vote of 12 to 11, Jacob Ludwig is elected as Speaker of the Student Government. There has been a motion to fill the blank with Senator Ludwig's name, and we'll let Senator Ludwig fill his own name in. Well, I think we know what's going to happen, so we can move forward now. So the blank is filled, or I don't think that should say speaker yet. All right, so Jacob Ludwig, the blank has been filled with his name. So now we are on debate on the bill. I think, is there a call to question? So there is a call to question. Is there a second? There is a second. Okay, so now is there objection? Okay, so now we will vote to officially confirm Jacob Ludwig as Speaker. There's a call for unanimous consent. Is there any objection? Okay, with unanimous consent, Jacob Ludwig is officially confirmed into Speaker. And now we will move into 2020-2-002 SG, electing the new vice speaker, -3 or 3 SG, electing the new vice speaker of the Senate. So this will be a similar deal to the last one. Is there a motion to open the floor for nominations? There's been a motion to open the floor for nominations. Is there a second? Is there any objection? Okay, the floor has been open for nominations. Senator Samuel.
Senator
Senator Gonzalez, do you accept? Okay. Do you yield, Senator Samuel? Senator Zastro.
I nominate Senator Mass.
I respectfully decline.
I yield.
Are there any further nominations? Is there a motion to close the floor for nominations? There's been a motion to close the floor for nominations by Senator Stenzel. Is there a second? There's been a second. Is there any objection? Okay, the floor has been closed for nominations. If Senator Gonzalez could come approach the podium and speak as to why she would like to be Vice Speaker. Can you give her a mic?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mariana Gonzalez. I am a second-year student, triple majoring in political science, public relations, and marketing from Eagle Grove, Iowa. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I think that I would make a good vice speaker just because last year I served as the student government office manager. So I worked very closely with the bylaws, keeping track of the Senate orders and other bills that came through student government. And then I had a really great experience as a first-year senator last year. I grew really close to this organization. It does have a special place in my heart. And one of the duties of vice speaker is taking care of the mentor-mentee program. I know I had a great experience with this, so I would love to be able to handle this year so that you will all be able to love this organization just as much as I do. I have been able to work closely with Ludwig on Senate orders. As an IRHA senator last year and on the Public Relations Committee, I do have knowledge on how to work with others and just be, efficient as efficient as possible as one can be. So yeah, that is all I have for you guys. Thank you.
Speaker Ludwig.
I've known Mariana since she joined Senate. She's got a lot of energy and passion for this organization, and I know she'd do great in this role. So I just want to put that out there.
Is there any further discussion, questions, or motions? There's been a call to question. Is there a second? There's been a second. Is there any objection? Okay, we will now vote on whether to who to fill the blank with. So we could either do. There's been a call for unanimous consent. Is there any objection? Okay, with the unanimous consent, the blank has been filled with Mariana Gonzalez's name. And if our acting vice speaker doesn't have editing access, so we will pretend that Senator Gonzalez's name has been filled in the blank. So, is there any motions? Senator Mass.
I call the question.
There's been a call to question. Is there a second? There has been a second, so is there any objection? We will now move into voting as to whether there's been a call for unanimous consent. Is there any objection? With no objection, Mariana Gonzalez has been elected as Vice Speaker of Student Government. And if Senator Mass could give Vice Speaker Gonzalez editing access, I think I would appreciate it. Thank you.
She has it.
We will now move on to Student Government Bill 2020-2-004 SG, electing the chair of the Civic Engagement Committee with Senator Mass.
This bill does what it says it does. The Civic Engagement Committee is in charge of promoting civic engagement on campus, including voter registration among students and other similar things. I'm going to move to open the floor for nominations.
There's been a motion to open the floor for nominations. Is there a second? There's been a second. Any objection? The floor has been open for nominations. Are there any senators who would like to nominate? Speaker Ludwig. Senator Samuel.
I nominate Senator Fahim.
Do you accept? Senator Mass? Are there any further nominations? Is there a motion to close the floor? There's been a motion to close the floor for nominations by Senator Stenzel. Is there a second? Any objection? And there's no objection, so there's been an objection. Senator Stenzel, would you like to withdraw your motion? Senator Gonzalez, or Vice Speaker Gonzalez?
I'd like to nominate Senator Samuel.
Senator Samuel, do you accept? Okay. Is there any further nominations now? There's been a motion to close nominations. Is there a second? There's been a second. Any objection? All right, the nominations have been closed. If the senators who have been nominated could approach the lectern and give a speech no longer than 5 minutes about why they would like to chair the Civic Engagement Committee. Could you use a mic, please? Thank you.
Okay. Hello, my name's Seba Fahim. I'm a fourth-year student. I'm studying biosystems engineering, and I think I'd be a great candidate for Civic Engagement Committee. I was in Civic Engagement Committee last year, in which we wrote and passed a bill to get the DOR to restructure their move-in process to include voter registration. And so even through the pandemic, where where the move-in process was completely changed, we were still able to preserve a lot of those elements. One of the bigger ones that I'm more proud of is that we were able to get these voter registration stations put into each dorm and off-campus apartment, and they're being made right now. They're going to get printed soon, and those will have voter registration forms, absentee ballot request forms, and information. And so on this information, will have everything that you need to know about elections, and then also what will happen if the school shuts down based on when it will shut down. And so to write all of that and to write the CA guides to tell CAs how voting is going to work on campus, I had to be able to learn everything there was to know about elections. We'll work with the county auditor. We'll work with Karen Kajowski, who's the leader of the CAT Center, which is the CAT Center for Women in Politics. And so through both of those, I know a lot about elections. And so I know a lot about how to get students to go vote, which is exactly what Civic Engagement Committee is. So last year, as an at-large member, I was able to get that passed, and now it's in motion. And not only was I able to do that as an at-large member, but through my club, the College Democrats, I was able to get one of my friends on city council. And that takes mobilizing students. It takes mobilizing them to go vote. And so and she got nominated in the 4th ward, which is the student ward. It covers Maple Larch, UDCC, and Campustown. And so in some of those areas, we were able to increase voter turnout by nearly 600%. From 2015, which was the last city council election, to 2019, voter turnout went from around 10 people to 60 people in UDCC, which is a 600% increase. And so with that, and then students is normally low, but in the city council election, it's even lower. But we were able to do that by engaging students. And so I think with that experience, other campaign experience that I've had as well, working in J.D. Schulten's campaign, the Elizabeth Warren campaign, I know how to get students to go vote. And I'm able to do that through implementing proper legislation, like I showed last year when I was working with Tony Tonette in the Civic Engagement Committee last year. And so with that experience, I think I'd be a great candidate for chair of Civic Engagement Committee. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name's Hyatt Samuel, she, her, hers. I'm a double major in criminal justice studies and political science. And today, I guess I want to run for civic engagement chair because I've been doing civic engagement work since freshman year. I actually worked with Vice President Jacob Schrader with Vote Everywhere, and then I became president of Vote Everywhere for a year and a half, which is a civic engagement organization on our campus. and I worked with like getting out the vote, and I worked with the CAT Center, and I became a member of League of Women Voters, and I actually got to go to the Secretary of State's voter civic engagement presentation with Vice President Schrader. I also got to go to New Jersey for Vote Everywhere, and I worked and got some plans implemented for Iowa State for voter registration. I've done a lot of voter registration drives, and I've done a lot of work with just getting out the vote and making sure students know where to go vote, how to go vote, and when to. And yeah, this year with everything going on, I still want students to know where to vote, how to vote, and I want them to be comfortable knowing who their candidates are. I'm pretty good at remaining nonpartisan when it comes to that. That's the whole Vote Everywhere theme, is remaining nonpartisan and making sure that students are not led one way or the other. And I've also actually got to accept the award on behalf of ISU from this Secretary of State when we actually got our voter registration percentages up. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is there any senators who would like to raise their placard for debate, questions, or motions? Senator Zastro.
Yeah, hi, thank you both for, I don't know if it's working. Hello? Should I grab another one? Okay. All right, thank you both for being interested in this position. It's a really important one. So both of you obviously have your own political opinions, and of course somebody who has political opinions can do this job as well as anybody else. But how can you make sure that what you personally believe doesn't impact the goal of Civic Engagement Committee, which is to help everybody go vote?
I think when the goal to remain nonpartisan when it comes to Civic Engagement Committee is making sure the people that work in Civic Engagement Committee also know when they're talking to their constituents or they're talking to people that not to be biased towards a candidate or be biased towards anything that they truly believe, and keeping your opinions out of it as much as possible. And if someone does ask you about a candidate or some issues, making sure you lead them to the right direction, where like a pamphlet, for example, where it can show all the candidates and not just one certain political party that you believe in.
So I really appreciate you asking that question. I think in any time that you're trying to engage students to go vote, it's important to be nonpartisan. You want to make sure that everyone has the same access to that information and that they're able to use it how they feel is best. So even though I have my own personal set of beliefs, Hyatt has her set of beliefs, that doesn't impact how I'm going to engage students. Every student has the same right to vote as anyone else. And so I believe that even though I'm a Democrat, that's how I'm going to vote, it doesn't make any difference on how I'm going to get anybody else to be engaged. They have their own beliefs. And there's different resources that I can point them to. League of Women Voters, which is a nonpartisan group, has this website called Vote 411 that shows all the candidates' information. It's nonpartisan. Whenever we talk about wanting to get to know your candidates, that's where we lead people to.
And then just one more question. Are you still serving, Senator Fahim, are you still serving as president of the College Democrats, and would you continue to serve if you were elected to this position?
Yes, I would.
All right, thank you. I yield.
Wait, can I expand? Okay.
Well, no. Senator Zastro yielded his time, so his speaking privilege is over. Someone else could probably ask a similar question. That might be helpful. Senator Mass.
I'll let Senator Fahim briefly expand upon that first, please.
Okay, so I've held that role for quite a while, and so I think it'd be irresponsible to the club first to remove myself from the role, because there's no one who can really fill that position as well as I have, as I can, because I've been in it for a while. So first, I believe in holding true to my duties. And so I'm not going to let go of that club. But at the same time, they can be separate. The way that you engage somebody for Dems is different from how you engage somebody for civic engagement. There are certain things that you'd want to do with the Democratic Party that you wouldn't want to do with the Civic Engagement Committee. And I completely understand that and know how to keep those things separate. And so, yeah, I wouldn't want to give up the role because I believe I have a responsibility to it. But at the same time, I don't think that's going to hinder me from this role. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Senator Fahim. A question for both of you. What exactly does voter registration look like during COVID-19 when students may not be as willing to stop at a voter registration clipboard or table or that sort of thing?
Yeah, so the county auditor actually has voter registration forms that are already stamps, and since now that they're gonna be in the dorm rooms, students can just go, fill it out and put it in like the little box, and there's gonna be someone from either Civic Engagement Committee to go pick it up or League of Women Voters to go pick it up. But yeah, that's what it kind of looks like. If you want.
Can I ask you to expand upon your question?
Sure. So what I'm asking is because of COVID-19, I think students are less likely to want to stop at a table or someone with a clipboard, to do their voter registration there quickly. So I'm asking, how would you seek to still reach those students, when our traditional methods aren't available to us?
Okay, I understand. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. So first, last semester with that bill that I was talking about before, that includes voter registration forms into the move-in process. And so because move-in has gotten a little bit shifted, the timeline's also shifted, but there's a couple of steps to that. So first, CAs are armed with the information to give to their residents. So we're talking about dorms here, dorms and on-campus apartments. So CAs are armed with that information to give to their residents. And so I wrote out the CA document of how voter registration works, all the information, frequently asked questions, all that good stuff. And so they can tell their residents how to register to vote, and then those voter registration stations that I was talking about earlier, that has your voter registration forms, absentee ballot, and then more information.
Sure.
So students could go right there, grab it, fill it out, and then like Hyatt was saying, they're postage paid, so you could just fold it up and put it right in the mailbox.
Yep, certainly. And I've definitely taken advantage of the Story County Auditor's great contribution with that. So
wait, I have more.
Yeah, sort of a follow-up question for both of you too. We're talking a lot about dorms and on-campus students. I personally live in a fraternity house. Obviously, a majority of our population lives off of campus. How do we address them even when they're not necessarily freshmen? Because I know lots of students who want to register back home for an election, and then now maybe they want to register in Ames for an election and are moving their registration back and forth a lot. How do we reach them too?
Gotcha. So like I was saying, we have those boxes, and so I've been working with Karen Kudrowski from the CAT Center, which is the Center for Women in Politics. And so she's looking to get those boxes put into fraternities and different buildings across campus. So she was thinking about Parks Library, the MU. And so we've been working together to get that. Sure. And then at the same time, I've also held a voter registration drive yesterday, and I'm going to be holding another one tomorrow. And we actually have gotten quite a few students. Oh, and I was also at DIS on Friday and Saturday getting students registered to vote. And so you would think that a lot of students would be wary of coming up to somebody with a clipboard. But if you have hand sanitizer, you have your mask, you offer them hand sanitizer before and afterwards, you sanitize the pen regularly, and that still works. And so from DIS, I know we got at least 50. From the 3 hours that we were out there yesterday, we got at least 50. And so there's still these different avenues that you could go down to get people registered to vote.
Sure.
Yeah, basically everything she said. I still do plan on having tabling during the school year, but in a very proper manner. So yeah.
All right. Thank you. I yield.
Senator Lau.
So you both talked a lot about what you've done in the past. I was just wondering if you would continue with what you have previously done that has been successful to get voter registration turnouts increased, or if you have any new strategies that you'd like to bring to the table if you do get this position.
Yeah, so I do have some new ideas. Once the committee's up, I do want the committee, though, to work as a whole and come up with ideas as well. I do plan on tabling more. I do plan on putting out more resources for students. But as for now, I just want the committee still to be built up so then we can all come with fresh ideas.
Yes, so I completely agree. I think that the committee should be thinking of ideas together. That shouldn't just be the chair who's leading that discussion. I'm sorry, the chair shouldn't be the one dominating that discussion. They should be leading it. But at the same time, I do have my own ideas that I want to bring to it, and certain things I've already put in motion because the rest of the school year is quite ambiguous. And so I felt like it was important to have those projects moving. And so one of the things that we're going to be doing is that we have booths already set up for National Voter Registration Day and the Women's Suffrage Centennial. So that's September 22nd and August 26th, I believe. And so we have 4 different voter registration tables set up all across campus, one at the MU, one at the Parks Library, one at UDCC, and one at MWL. And so we're going to be able to get those people in the future. And then I also want to do a contactless canvas where we would just leave that information on everyone's door, because most people haven't gotten their address settled yet. And so when the auditor sends out your absentee ballot request, if you haven't gotten your voter registration in yet, it won't get to you. And so I felt like it'd be important to just kind of cover that whole area, do basically like a blind canvas of all the off-campus apartments. And so you wouldn't even have to have contact with them, so you wouldn't be putting them at risk for COVID. You would just stick that information up on their door, that way they could see it. Yep.
Thank you. I yield my time.
Senator Weathers.
First, I just want to say I know both of you fairly well, and I think you would both be excellent at this position. Secondly, is my mic too loud? Is this too close to my face? Okay, sorry. I guess I just have one question for you. Since you were both involved in Civic Engagement Committee last year in one form or another, could you specifically identify a couple flaws with how you saw it was managed, if there were any?
Yeah. So I was in Civic Engagement Committee in the second half, and so I guess I can't speak to the full year. The only issues I felt like were there, which it was minor, I just felt like there wasn't a whole lot of direction in the committee. There are ideas that were tossed around, but there wasn't a lot of a strong direction of what we should do. And so if I was chair of it, that's something that would change.
Yeah, I too was also in Civic Engagement Committee for the whole year. Yeah, there wasn't much direction either, but also I think meeting was kind of difficult last year. So one thing that I would probably implement is getting everyone there, making sure everyone is there on time, and actually having everyone break up jobs and being there present all the time, because last year I know we didn't really meet as much as we would like. So yeah, if it's through Zoom or if it's in person, I'd like to do that. So.
Okay, thank you for both being able to identify that. I yield.
Senator Schulte.
Hi, so civic engagement, while the main priority is obviously voter registration, isn't just voting. So how exactly will you involve students in not just campus, but also Ames and then the broader of Iowa?
First, I think that's such a good question, that civic engagement goes beyond just going to the polls. Civic engagement should be a part of our lives, because when you do go vote, that impacts every single part of your life. Like, we're all wearing masks right now because of an ordinance from the university. You're not wearing masks in the rest of Ames because of ordinances from the county, statewide. So voting is a part of your life. And so I feel like fostering those discussions would be a really good way to go about that. And so that would be in the in the committee and then otherwise. And so if you are registering people to vote, make it so that it's not just, let's fill out this form. It's, let's talk to you about what issues matter to you, how our local candidates handle that, how local politics work. You could invite people to these meetings too, because this also affects them. This is another form of civic engagement. So I think there are a lot of different ways to go about that. Thank you.
Yeah, so one big thing that we did last year were like forums, candidate forums. So different candidates would either come on campus, or we would have like the ACLU come on campus and talk about how to get people engaged civically. So I think if we could do something similar like that this year, that would be great.
I yield.
There's been a call to question. Is there a second? There's been a second. Are there any objections? Okay, we will move directly into a vote. Please raise your placard if you would like to vote for Senator Fahim. Please raise your placard if you would like to vote for Senator Samuel. And abstentions. Okay, with a vote of 15-8, Senator Samuel has been nominated to fill the blank. If that could be reflected, thank you. And the nominees can take their seats.
I call for the question.
There's been a call to question. There's a second. Is there any objection? Yes, so if you object, we would talk about if we wanted to vote now, or Senator Mask would withdraw his motion and we would talk about the bill as a whole. Okay, so there's no objection. So there's been a call to question and a second, and we will move into a placard vote.
Call for unanimous consent.
There's been a call for unanimous consent. Is there any objection to the call for UC? With no objection, Senator Samuel has been nominated to be chair of Civic Engagement Committee. We will now move on to 005 SG, seating the chair of the Student Initiatives Committee.
All right, this bill is the same thing, but for Student Initiatives Committee. Student Initiatives Committee is in charge of organizing large student events on campus and other ideas that are brought to the committee from students. I will move to open the floor for nominations.
Is there a second? Is there any objection? The floor has been open for nominations. Senators are now able to nominate other senators to chair the Civic Engagement Committee. Or, sorry, not the Student Initiatives Committee. Senator Bouma. Do you accept?
Accept.
Do you yield, Senator Bouma? Are there any further nominations? Senator Gonzalez.
I nominate Emily Hovey.
Senator Hovey, do you accept? Okay. Do you yield? I yield. Are there any further nominations? There's been a motion to close the floor. There's been a second. Are there any objections? The floor has been closed. If the nominees could approach the lectern and give a short speech about why they believe they should chair the Student Initiatives Committee. Senator Advite has withdrawn his name from consideration. So Senator Hovey, if you could still address the members as to why you believe you should chair the committee.
Hi, everyone. For those that don't know me, my name is Emily Hovey. I am one of two of the College of Human Sciences senators. I am a major in event management and a minor in public relations. And I'm a senior, yeah. So I think I would be great in the Student Initiatives Committee because I really value like a lot of people's opinions on whether or not, you know, the university is doing a good job within student government. Just really getting people's opinions and valuing those, and just kind of putting, sorry, I was not expecting a nomination, but I just like working with people. I am also a member of the Public Relations Committee, and so just working with people and really getting the issues that matter to students to more of a higher up level so that those can be talked about and whatnot. So, yeah.
Is there any discussion or motions? Senator Veit.
Hello. I guess what I want to ask is, do you have any previous experience working with the university administration, working in a role that somewhat resembles civic engagement? Student initiatives. And if not, how do you plan on making up for that, or which resources do you plan on utilizing to overcome that? I yield.
Yeah. So.
I don't yield. I skip.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, so the roles that I have fulfilled in my time in student government is being with the Public Relations Committee, and with that, I played a part in setting up the candidate open houses, and also through the summer, I've been in contact with Chase Krug of the Election Commission, and I wouldn't say I have had a lot of experience, so not with quantity, but the quality of my experience, I believe, has been really good. I'm a little bit new to this still, but with everything that I've been involved in so far, I think taking the next step and getting more involved is a really exciting opportunity that I believe I would do well in. I guess to kind of just do better and get more knowledge and learn more, I would definitely sit and talk with members who have been experienced and in the Student Initiatives Committee, and just kind of learn from what everyone else has done and form my new opinions based off of that.
Thank you. I yield.
Yeah. And Chief of Staff Rowling was chair of the committee last year, and I'm sure would be happy to talk all about it. So, is there any further discussion or motions?
I call the question.
There's been a call to question and a second. Is there any objection? Okay, we'll have a placard vote
I
to
call
fill
for
the
unanimous consent.
There's call for UC. Is there any objection? No objection. The blank has been filled by unanimous consent with Senator Hovey's name.
I call for question.
There's been a call to question on the full bill. Is there a second? Is there any objection? Okay, we will have a placard vote.
And I call for unanimous consent.
There's been a call for unanimous consent. Is there any objection? With no objection, Senator Hovey has been nominated as chair of the Student Initiatives Committee.
Thank you.
We will now move on to 006 SG, seating a clerk to the Senate. If former Clerk Rowling could come take the minutes while we do this. Thank you. Senator Mass.
Well, we've been very lucky to have Ryan with us for the past year, and I'm excited to hear what he has to say, but I think he'll do a phenomenal job in continuing this role after being nominated again. So with that, I'll go ahead and yield to you, Ryan.
Hey, my name is Ryan Hillier. I'm a junior in computer engineering here. I don't have a lot to say. Like most meetings, I just kind of sit here and write the minutes. make sure it gets out to the representatives that needs to get out to, and for those who can't necessarily listen in, it's a really good point of information for a lot of people in this community. And I hope that you guys nominate me and I get to continue helping you guys out in that aspect.
Okay, so we don't need there's not a blank to fill, so Ryan's name is already in the bill. Are there any motions or discussion points? There's been a call to question. Is there a second? There's been a second. Any objections? Okay, with no objections, there's been a call for unanimous consent. And is there any objection? All right, then by unanimous consent, Ryan has been reconfirmed to be clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President,
Yes, Senator Mass.
I move to table resolutions 7 through 13.
There's been a motion to table resolutions 7 through 13. Is there a second? Okay, is there any objection? Yes. Okay, so there's been a motion and a second. So the motion has been made without objection. So Senator Mass, if you could explain and then maybe call to question.
Yeah, so these are all cabinet appointments. Currently, we have cabinet members serving in the acting capacity. Since we have a hard deadline of 9:45 for this meeting, we'll go ahead. If this motion is adopted, we'll go ahead and proceed to electing student fee and tuition committee members and then adopting our COVID policy. And then we will return to the executive nominees and work through as many as we can before 9:45. We just have things that need to be elected tonight, so we need to table these first.
Okay. Is there a call to question on that? Okay. A second? Okay, there's been a second. Any objections? Okay, we will have a placard vote on whether to table. There's been a call for unanimous consent. Any objection? Okay, those resolutions or those bills have been tabled. We will now move on to 2020-2-014 SG, electing a member of the Student Fee and Tuition Committee with Senator Mass.
Yeah, so the Student Fee and Tuition Committee is the formal body that recommends to the Board of Regents what student fees should pay and tuition recommendations as to what tuition should be set at. So this includes everything from health fee to what student government receives in a fee to basically the daily used to receive a fee. They now receive money through our fee, everything like that. So we, as a Senate, seat one member, as well as the president and finance director serve on the committee, as well as the nominee of the president. With that, I'm going to move to fill the blank and open the floor for nominations.
Is there a second? Any objection? The floor has been open for nominations. And Senator Weathers.
I nominate Senator Zastro.
Do you accept?
Yes.
Do you yield, Senator? Speaker Ludwig.
I would nominate Senator Mass.
Do you yield?
I yield.
Are there any further nominations? Senator Weathers? Okay. All right. Is there a motion to close the floor? There's been a motion to close the floor. Is there a second? Any objections? All right. The floor has been closed. If the nominees could approach the lectern and give their speeches.
There we go. Hello. Is this working? Great. Hi, you guys. My name is Mason. I'm a junior this year, majoring in political science, philosophy, and sociology. This is my second year in Senate. Last year I served on the Finance Committee, as well as that ad hoc committee that Speaker Ludwig was talking about earlier. Right now I've been appointed to the Curriculum Committee on Faculty Senate as the Student Government Representative. My goal as somebody who'd be serving on this committee is to increase the discussion that's happening between student government and this committee. Last year, this was something that I heard about on occasion, and we got kind of a regular update of what exactly was going on with the fees whether they were going to be, the student activity fee was going to be raised for us, whether we need to be concerned about the kind of money that we would be working with for the following year. And I would like to bring Senate into that discussion a little bit more, because we are the voice of the student body, and I think that's something that we need to be talking about a little more. In addition to that, me being on finance committee and having a good personal working relationship with President Fritz and acting finance director Class, who are the other members on the board, would make me a really good member. Previously, I think that it's been the position of Senate that we just need to drop fees as much as we possibly can. And in any other year, I'd be pretty supportive of that agenda, but I think we need to look very frankly at the challenge that we have in front of us. If we cut the student fee, the student activity fee, like has been proposed in some previous years, we wouldn't be able to fund clubs, and that comes at a very tangible cost. I've sat down with over 100 clubs as part of annual allocations being in finance committee, and I know that there are many clubs on campus that if they didn't receive funding for even just 1 year, probably wouldn't be here in 5. So although I think it's really important to save students money where we can, I think we need to be really serious about how we can keep these clubs going. And if that means that every student is paying another $4 or paying the same amount that they are right now, I think that is something that we absolutely need to do. Lastly, I think that we need to restructure how the fees are. Right now, we are paying for the TAO contract, which is a mental health device. And even though that's part of the student activity fee, we also have a wellness fee and part of a fee that goes to Teelan Health Center and rec services. And that contract, I think, needs to be restructured into that fee. I think that we should be more transparent to the students about where their fees are going. And I think that we should, that I would work with the PR committee to use our social media to make sure that people are able to track where their money is going so they can more fully appreciate what all their fees go towards. I would really like to serve on this committee, and I really hope that you guys elect me, and I'm happy to take your questions.
Thank you, Senator. All right, hello everyone. You've already heard from me once tonight. I would just like to add specifically about the Student Fee and Tuition Committee. I agree with Senator Zastro that a lot of times Senate isn't very informed about what exactly is happening with those conversations, which I do think is kind of a shame, especially because we as a student government exist specifically within Iowa code in order to approve student fees and interact with the university on what those fees should be. I'm sure many of you have had the question of what's the $500 charge on my U-bill? What is some of this money going towards? I know I've talked to many students who are frustrated about, what these fees are. There's a lack of transparency about what they're paying for, why, that sort of thing. That being said, I agree with Senator Zastro. There are a lot of student fees that are definitely badly needed. But I think especially this year, we need to really have conversations about what's high priority and what's not. And we as a government, like Senator Zastro said, have had issues before where we've kind of duplicated things from the fees, specifically in the area of the TAO contract with mental health, but also in other areas such as STD testing, where we were kind of doubling up, where students were paying both for the Teelan Student Health Center that was paying for STD testing, and then also paying student government, which was paying for STD testing. And if that doesn't make your mind hurt a little bit to completely understand where the money that you're spending every semester is going, that's kind of a problem for many students. So we really need to start looking at those, trying to be clear with them, seeing what's high priority for students, what are students expecting out of college, and what are some fees that maybe don't need to be raised when people come in and ask for more money. What are things that aren't as high priority as others? Obviously, health is incredibly important this year, and we've been very fortunate, with our health services on campus to have quick testing and that sort of thing. But we really need to have a critical eye on this committee, and I'd hope to be able to provide that. Really ask the good questions and keep all of you informed so that you can, in turn, go back and really explain, okay, this is what student government is doing to try and help you provide services that are needed, but also trying to cut fees where they need to be cut. So that's what I would definitely say on that. So thank you all.
Okay, is there any discussion or motions? Senator Lona.
Hi, Senators. So I wanted to ask, so with us supporting many clubs on campus with over 600 organizations, how are you keeping track and managing the spending of each clubs, and in terms of the ratio from increasing members over the years for each club to, if you're still supporting the club but their membership is diminishing, how are you keeping track of that?
Sure. So I can answer that quickly. Specific funding individual clubs is something that we as the Senate do specifically. So every year we pass annual allocations where we fund most of those clubs, and then we do special allocations as well where we fund clubs who weren't able to participate in annual allocations for whatever reason, or who have special projects that didn't really fit within the annual allocations budget. So that's something that kind of we do as a room. The student fee committee sets what that fee is that we as a government then get and get to allocate to the clubs. So that's largely more of a finance director role and a finance committee role of keeping track of all those clubs, their requests, and especially on growth too. We usually don't fund clubs based upon membership. We fund them based upon a specific event or a specific request. So if they have an event that they're looking to send 20 club members to, we will compare that to the previous year and say, did you send 20 members last year? But we're not specifically usually looking at, okay, you have 60 members this year, but you got 200 this year, so we're spending more money on you. They have to ask for something specific. So that's how we largely keep track of those sort of things. Do you have anything to add, Senator Zastro?
Yeah, just a little. There are some specific things that we cover based on club membership. If you are a new club on campus, then however many people you have registered in the Student Activity Center database is how we fund events that have food at them, which it'll be, we assume that twice the number of your total membership will come. So if you have 14, we'll fund for 28 plates because, people bring their friends to that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, in general, that isn't something that this committee really deals with. That's more finance committee, which is fun. Apply for that also. That's in class's memo, in the classroom.
Do you yield, Senator? Okay. Is there any further discussion or motions? It's been a call to question. Is there a second? There's been a second. Is there any objection? Okay, with no objection, we will move into a placard vote. If you would like to fill the blank with Senator Zastro's name, please raise your placard. If you would like to fill the blank with Senator Mass's name, please raise your placard. Okay, the blank has been filled with Senator Mass's name. We will now go back to the full bill. Is there any motions?
Call the question.
It's been a call to question. Second, any objections? No objections. We will go into a placard vote. Just call for unanimous consent. Any objections? Senator Mass has been nominated to the FTC committee. Thank you. We will now move on to Bill 2020-2-015 SC, confirming a member of the Student Fees and Tuition Committee with Senator Mass.
All right, this bill is also to the same committee. This time, though, Vice President Schrader has been nominated by President Fritz in order to fill her appointee on the commission, in addition to herself, the finance director, and now myself. So go ahead and open fire and ask him some tough questions. I yield.
Hi, my name is... Hello, I'm Jacob Schrader. I'm the Vice President of the student body. I previously served as a senator for 3 years, which means that I have been in Student Government Senate for a year and a half longer than anybody else in the room, because I started October of my freshman year and have missed every Wednesday of my life since then. But I was chair of Civic Engagement Committee a couple years ago. I was vice speaker last year. I also am currently the president of the SciRide Board of Trustees, and I am honored to have been nominated by President Fritz to serve on the Fee and Tuition Committee. I think this is probably the most important committee in our university. Student fees are something that students are raising on ourselves. We're raising taxes on ourselves to fund services that we find valuable. And I want to ensure that this money, student fee money, is being used for the students. We are in a declining enrollment, which, as president of the SciRide board, which does have a student fee, that is facing, over $1 million revenue shortfall because of declining enrollment. I know that it's going to be tough, and that every single group that comes to this committee, including probably student government, will say that we need a fee increase to cover our budget. But if we are going to approve that fee increase, we need to be ensured that those groups that are receiving fees stay committed towards serving students and are reevaluating their plans. Back when we were growing my freshman year, I remember the health fee wanted to be increased by $70 to fund a brand new health center in the parking lot of State Gym. That makes no more sense because we have enough space now with our declining enrollment. And we want to make sure that just because things have been improved in the past, that we're not reevaluating in light of our current situation. So as a member of the Fee and Tuition Committee, I will take it seriously. I will communicate with you all, but I want to ensure that the student fees are being used for the benefit of students. Because if it's for the university more broadly, then that should be charged to tuition. Thank you.
Any questions for the nominee? Senator Mass?
May I address the speaker?
You may.
All right, Vice President Schrader, what was probably the most high priority thing that definitely needs a fee increase, in your opinion?
Well, you're gonna make me say SciRide. No, but I will say that I don't know the financials of anything other than student government and SciRide currently. I know of them, I don't know them. I will just talk to where SciRide is at, where student government, as part of a contract with the city and the university, signed that we will contribute this much. That as a student body, we will fund SciRide, and it works out to about 60% of the total cost of the fleet. Well, when our revenues are cut, and when the Board of Regents lowers our fee beyond what the fee committee asked for, it results in over $1 million revenue shortfall, which means we will cut bus routes, we will. And if it wasn't for the United States Congress and the stimulus checks that kept coming, SciRide would look very different. But that's a stopgap funding, and we shouldn't expect trillion-dollar bailouts from the federal government every year. So that is a very drastic decision that we have to address. And I think that most departments on this campus are going to look a lot like that, where they're looking at 10% budget reductions and have to look at the priorities that they're examining. So I think that every decision is going to be hard. I think it's going to be one of the harder years that the committee has. Thank you.
Senator Klapatauskas? Hope I said that.
Right. I think the priority is to not increase fees. I think as much as we can handle. There probably will be a fee increase, but it is going to be the last option, and it's going to take a lot of effort. And I do think that students are going to be asked to pay a lot more in tuition already because of the reduction in funding from the state legislature. So it is going to be a tougher financial situation. We need to be aware of that. And, we'll try our best to keep the fees where they need to be, but also to keep the services that students rely on, like mental health services, like transportation, like so many other things that are put on by those student fees. Thanks.
Do you yield? Senator Feen?
So you talked a lot about the importance of having these fees. I wanted to see what your thoughts were for the tuition side of the committee as well. How would you use this role to advocate for students against those rising tuition costs that you were just talking about?
Right. And this is links into my broader role within student government of, the number one thing that's going to impact what tuition looks like next year is the state legislature. And, I'm happy to work with Cassie and our, government relations team to lobby. I've been to the state capitol to lobby. I have relationships there, and I'm ready to use everything I can to keep tuition from going up. But it is a conversation of, I would probably lean more to keeping tuition lower and lowering the quality of education, even though that is a really hard trade-off to make, because I believe that this is a land-grant institution whose mission is to provide accessible and affordable education to the students of this state and the country. Thank you.
Senator Luna?
So you talk about keeping tuition low. I really like that. That sounds good to me and to everybody here. I wanted to ask, with that being said, are you moving towards getting more corporate donors to help improve like the look of our campus, you know, our gyms, our buildings, especially like with the new innovation center? Are you heading more towards like a corporate?
You know, if the Iowa State Foundation does a great job with the endowment and making sure that, you know, there's money there for projects, and obviously I would support the foundation with whatever they had. You know, it is important to establish barriers. You know, you can't just name, you know, every kid's laptop after a donor or something, but, you know, we need to do our best to raise the money however we can, yeah.
I yield my time.
Any further questions?
Call the question.
It's been a call to question and a second. Are there any objections? Seeing, we have a call for unanimous consent. Any objections? Seeing none, this bill is passed by unanimous consent.
Good, So moving on to new business. First, we have 2020-2-001Y, COVID-19 safety measures for student government with Speaker Ludwig.
Right, so title. Sorry.
Any objections to considering as read? Okay.
Okay. Right. So I'm not just on my phone here. I am trying to read the bill. If you guys thought I was doing something else, let me pull this up. Here we are. Right. So this bill, generally speaking, just adapts student government to the, you know, the world that we live in with the pandemic right now. A lot of our policies, you know, didn't allow for online meetings. We put in some policies regarding social distancing and, you know, accountability for that. We suspended office hours for the semester. That's just kind of like a brief overview of the big things that we've done in this bill. But primarily what it does is establish a 17th chapter of the bylaws. This will expire at the end of the semester and disappear. So depending on how things look at the end of the semester, we may propose another bill to basically re-up this for the following semester. This just makes sure that we don't have to deal with it if, you know, things calm down in some way or whatever. But yeah, I think this bill is really important. It allows for a lot of the things that we're going to need to allow student government to function properly. The only thing, and I just have one amendment. Let me pull it up quick.
Amendments would be out of order, as questions of intent are the only thing allowed on the first reading of the bill.
I'm sorry, I need to move to waive first read.
Been a motion to waive second read. Is there a second?
Second.
Any objections? Moving to a placard vote on whether to waive second read.
EC.
There's been a call for unanimous consent. Any objections? And second read has been waived, and we can now vote on this bill and offer amendments as a normal bill.
Yeah. Just to explain why we did that, we need to pass a lot of this so we can obviously start functioning correctly this week. So that's why we're voting on it this week instead of next week. I am going to move to amend the, sorry, this is difficult without my laptop. Let me just, 17.5.1.1 to read, all chief officers shall serve a minimum of 10 in-office hours a week in student government offices. So just adding in student government offices into the middle of that sentence.
Okay. There's been a motion to amend the line that is 17.5.1.1. Okay, and there's been a second. Is there any objection? Okay, so we will move into debate. We can.
Yeah.
Okay. So Senator Ludwig, you have the floor.
Right. So this is just a clarification. Chief Justice Heasley reached out to me the other day, just thought that the language about where the office hours for chief officers was potentially vague. And so this is just to make sure that it's required that they still be in student government offices when they serve office hours. Yeah.
Do you
I yield.
There's been a call to question. Is there a second? Any objection? Okay.
Would that mean that you wouldn't be able to have Zoom office hours? Or if you had Zoom office hours, you would have to have them in a student government building?
So that would be a question of debate, and if you would like that asked, you must object to the call to question.
I object to the call to question.
Senator Stenzel, do you withdraw? Withdraw. Okay. Senator Fahim.
So does that mean Zoom or?
So chief officers are still going to be required to serve office hours. They're the only ones in student government, and that's because we have to meet minimum office requirements for our student government offices. So that's why you see that the 10 hours or half of whatever the SIC mandates. So we still have to meet those office hour requirements. We are obviously still, the other part of the bill suspends them for senators, but this makes sure that we still have people in the office so we meet those requirements and can keep our offices. So, yeah.
There's been a call to question. Is there a second? Second. Any objection? We now move into a placard vote on the amendment. There's been a call for unanimous consent. Is there any objection? Okay, the amendment is approved as stands. Back onto the bill as a whole. Senator Ludwig.
I yield.
There's been a call to question. Is that a second? Okay, there's been a second by Senator Stenzel. Is there any objection? Okay, we will now move into a roll call vote because this is a bylaw bill. Please say yes or no or abstain or move me down if you are not quite sure yet. Senator Adegarla. Senator Dwight. Senator Anderson. Senator Bender. Senator Buma. Senator Brown. Senator Emery. Fahim. Gonzalez. Hayes. Hovey. Hurley. Klaptatauskas. Lau. Lewis. Lona. Ludwig.
Yes.
Mass. Pfeiffer. Schulte. Springer. Stenzel. Stevens. Samuel. Weathers. Young. Zastro. Zavosky. Okay. With a vote of 26 to 0, this bill passes. We will.
Mr. President, I move to take from the table 2020-2-007 SC, confirming the Chief of Staff.
There's been a motion to take the Chief of Staff bill from the table. Is there a second? Okay. Any objections?
Object.
There's been an objection. We will now move into a 15-minute debate on whether we should take this from the table or not. Senator Mass.
I will yield to Senator Zastro to hear his point of view.
If we're just going back to the bills that we've already tabled, there's still one more item of new business that we need to get through this week.
Senator Zastro, I agree with you, but I think that since it's only a new business, it's going to take very little time. So I would rather spend our time on this first, and then we can quickly get the new business bill out of the way at the end.
All right, we just need to get that done
Yep.
because we need to pass it next week.
Sure.
All right, I withdraw my objection.
Okay, the objection has been withdrawn. Is there any other objections? Okay, so the bill has been picked up from the table. If Senator Mass, I believe, is your floor.
Yes, President Fritz has nominated Caitlin Rowling to serve as Chief of Staff. I will now yield to her for her to address any comments she would like to the body.
All right, can everyone hear me? Excellent. Well, to go ahead and introduce myself, my name is Caitlin Rowling, and I am a fifth-year senior in chemical engineering, so a little bit of a victory lap coming around. I have been a part of student government for the last 3 years in some capacity. To talk a little bit more about my leadership experience in the past, I really started my leadership experience at Iowa State by serving as the director of IT on the Inter-Residence Hall Association. Afterwards, I served as clerk, as previously mentioned by Vice President Schrader. Thank you so much. And then also as chair of the SI committee, a member of that as well previously. And then finally, as a UROC senator. So I have a lot of experience in student government. I've led various projects, and I would open the floor to any questions.
Is there any questions, discussions, or motion? It's been a call to question. Is there a second? There's been a second. Any objections? We will now have a placard vote. It's called for unanimous consent. Any objections? And by unanimous consent, Caitlin Rowling is confirmed to the position of Chief of Staff.
Mr. President, I move to take from the table 2020-2-008 SC, confirming the Finance Director.
Is there a second? Okay, there's been a second. Any objections? Okay, the table has been the motion has been picked up from the table. We are now on 008 SC, confirming a Finance Director, Senator Mass.
Matthew Klaas has been nominated to serve as Finance Director. He currently serves as the Acting Finance Director. I will now yield to him for any comments he has for the body.
Yeah, so if I introduced myself earlier, but again, I'm Matthew Klaas. This will be my third year in student government. First, I was on Civic Engagement Committee. Last year, I was a UROC senator and served on Finance Committee and worked pretty closely with the former Finance Director, Madison Mueller. Yeah, I guess we'll start with questions. Let's go there.
Is there any questions for Finance Director Mass? Any discussion or motions? It's been a call to question. Is there a second? Second. Any objection? We will now move into a placard vote.
C.
All right, any objection to use C? Then by unanimous consent, Matthew Klaas is confirmed to the position of Finance Director.
Mr. President, I move to take from the table 2020-2-009 SC, confirming the Director of ISU Ambassadors and Governmental Affairs.
Is there a second? Any objection? Okay, then we have picked up from the table 008 SC, 009 SC, confirming the Director of ISU Ambassadors and Government Affairs, Senator Mass.
Yes, similar to before, President Fritz has nominated Cassie Bond to serve in the role of Director of ISU Ambassadors and in the role of Director of Governmental Affairs. I will now yield to her for any comments for the body.
Mike in there.
Hi everyone, I'm Cassie Vaughn. Sorry, I literally wore the loudest shoes possible tonight. But anyways, so I am up for Director of Governmental Relations. I am an agriculture and society and political science double major. Last year I was one of the co-directors of Iowa State's Legislative Ambassadors Program. I've had experience working on issues in both state and federal government. I've worked in the Iowa Senate as a clerk for 3 years. I have a lot of connections still in the legislature and the governor's office as well. I guess if anyone has any questions about my experience or anything else, let me know.
Any discussion, questions, or motions? been a call to question. Is there a second? Any objection? Okay, then we will go into a placard vote. Any objection, unanimous consent? Okay, then by unanimous consent, Cassie Bond has been confirmed to the position.
Mr. President, I move to take from the table 2020-2-010 SC, confirming the Senior Director of Communications and Secretary.
Okay, there's been a motion to pick the bill from the table. There's been a second. Any objection? The bill has been picked up, and we will move right into 2020-2-010 SC, confirming the Senior Director of Communications and Secretary, Senator Mass.
So similarly, Anna Olson has been nominated by President Fritz to fill the roles of Senior Director of Communications and the role of the Secretary. I will yield to her for any comments.
Hi guys. Can you hear me, right? Yeah. Okay, so I'm Anna Olson, like you said. I am for Senior Director of Communications. I haven't been on student government before, so you guys probably don't recognize me besides the probably annoying emails I've been sending to you over the summer. But I guess since I can't say anything on my experience with student government until this year, I can just tell you a few things I've done this summer. The Social Justice Forum I was able to work on, along with working with Eliana Crabb, which is the Director of Outreach Acting, and on those one-pagers that you guys were assigned to, along with many different social media campaigns and different things. So there's kind of been a lot we've been working on this summer, and hopefully I get to work on that throughout the school year. Any questions?
Any questions, discussion, or motions? Okay, there's been a call to question. Is there a second? Second, any objections? Okay, then we'll move into a placard vote.
UC.
Any objections? All right, then with no objection, Anna Olson is confirmed to the position of Senior Director of Communications and Secretary.
Mr. President, I move to take from the table 2020-2-12 SC, confirming the Director of Sustainability.
Okay, there's been a motion to pick from the table 12 SC, Director of Sustainability. Is there a second? Any objections? Okay, then it has been picked up from the table. Senator Mass.
I will yield to the nominee for any comments.
Can you all hear me? Okay, great. Hi everyone, my name is Jennifer Seth and I am a junior. I am, for now, studying environmental science with minors in Spanish and meteorology. This is my second year in student government. Last year I served as a member of Sustainability Committee and worked very closely with the former Director of Sustainability, Izzy Wild, and I have experience working with the Director of Sustainability before that, which was Tony Slew, if any of you remember that person. She's pretty great. My other experiences involving sustainability on campus include some leadership roles in clubs that are sustainability oriented on campus. So I was an education chair of Environmental Science Club, and so I spent a lot of time working on education and outreach within the broader Ames community on sustainability issues. Some things I did with that is I spent a lot of time organizing events with school children in the Ames area. So like Kate Mitchell, I did some stuff with education and outreach there. And then I was also the former president and education chair of Climate Reality Campus Corps, which is an organization that focuses a lot on climate action. So I've been involved in strike planning for that group. If you're familiar with the Beard True strikes that occur every Friday, or used to before COVID. And I have also been involved in some other things with that group as well, in terms of planning events like documentary screenings and other things such as that. Some of my experiences in Sustainability Committee last year, I was part of the group that was working on trying to implement more composting at Friday Windows, and I was also one of the authors on the Declaration of Climate Emergency that was passed last year. So if you have any comments, questions, feel free to ask.
Senator Mass.
Sure. So you briefly touched on composting there. Are there ways that the university could take better advantage of that this year and in the future, do you think?
I think this year a lot of things are going to be a bit difficult given the situation and the fact that, you know, funding is pretty low this year. That is something that I want to focus on this year. So I don't necessarily know if I want to look specifically at the dining halls. I think that the dining halls do need more well, all of the dining halls, the major dining halls have composting with the exception of Friley Windows at this point. And I toured the facilities at Friley Windows last year as part of Sustainability Committee. And one of the biggest issues that they're currently facing with that is just the amount of dock space for another bin large enough to hold compost. So they actually have done composting at Friley Windows before and made the difficult decision to remove that after about a year or so. But so we're kind of, I want to eventually maybe step back into that and look at that again. But for now, I think there could be more focus on looking at composting in possibly campus apartments, so like Frederickson Court and possibly University Village. So that's something that I'm going to, well, if I am in the committee, if I keep this position, something that I would like to bring up with the Sustainability Committee once that is formed in the near future and see if that's something we can't start looking into and trying to work on for the school year.
Sure. And additionally, how do you feel about the university's proposed plan to move us to natural gas in order for cleaner energy source?
I think that natural gas, well, okay. I think that while natural gas is something that we could look into for now, I don't think that natural gas is a permanent solution. I think that it could be a stepping stone into future endeavors. So kind of looking more, you know, into renewable energy, eventually looking more into other sources of energy that we can utilize on campus. So I think that for now, natural gas is maybe a necessary solution. But I think that while we're, you know, implementing natural gas, we should also be looking at ways to further that. You know, it's a good step in the right direction, but there's a lot more that we can do past that that we can and should focus on.
I appreciate that. The nominee seems eminently qualified, and so I'm going to call for the question.
Any objections? Okay, then we will move into a vote. And there's been a call for unanimous consent. Any objections? Then by unanimous consent, the nominee is confirmed to the position of Director of Sustainability.
Mr. President, I move to take from the table 2020-2-11 SC, confirming the Director of Diversity and Inclusion.
There's been a motion. Is there a second? There is a second to take from the table 2020-2-00 or -011 SC, confirming the Director of Diversity and Inclusion. Is there any objections? Then it has been taken from the table. Senator Mass.
All right, similar to the previous ones, is the nominee here?
Or in substitute of the nominee, would President Fritz speak on behalf of nominee Lauren Perk?
Mr. Vice President, as a point of order, is it appropriate for us to confirm a nominee that is not present according to the bylaws?
That is up to you as a Senate to decide. I will submit it to the body.
I'm asking as a question of the rules. Is it appropriate?
I believe the rule just states that clubs asking for financial legislation have to be present. I don't think there's anything about nominees having to be present. In fact, we confirmed nominees to Senate committees last year without their presence.
All right. That's the end of my question. Thank you. I will yield to President Fritz.
Hello. Yeah, so I first got to know Lauren Perk through her role as the Social Justice Chair on the Collegiate Panhellenic Council, which is basically one of the sorority councils at Iowa State. And so I just saw the work that she did there and how she was really able to connect with students and really create initiatives that, you know, help students of all identities. I thought that was very impressive. And so, you know, she has agreed to be nominated for this position. I think she is incredibly qualified, and I definitely, you know, would approve on her behalf.
Are there any questions, discussion, or motions? It's been a call to question. Is there a second? Any objections? Okay, then we will move into a placard vote on the nominee. There's been a call for unanimous consent. Is there any objections? Okay, with no objection, Lauren Perk is confirmed to the position of Director of Diversity and Inclusion by unanimous consent.
Mr. President, I move to take from the table 2020-2-13 SC, confirming the Director of Health and Wellness.
Is there a second? Any objections? Then we will remove 013 SC, confirming a Director of Health and Wellness from the table. The bill is active in Senator Mass. Slide up.
Okay, can you guys hear me now? Okay, my name is Sophie Young. I'm a third-year student here at Iowa State. I am studying microbiology with a minor in global health. So for those of you that don't know what that is, that's kind of a focus in public health. So talking about things like vaccination, how viruses spread, those kinds of things. So actually that minor is what got me interested in this position. So one of the things I'm passionate about obviously is education for students on campus. I think knowledge is power when it comes to your health. I think it's really important to have all the facts before you make decisions about how to control your health. And another thing I'm really passionate about is mental health and demystifying mental health services for students on campus. This is my first experience with student government, so I'll just talk to some things that I've been involved in on campus that got me interested in health and wellness. So I did some research with a professor, and we studied bacterial infections and how those spread. So I got to kind of see how infections spread in populations and how that affects how we interact with others. I also spent time working in the diagnostic lab on campus, which is now running all your COVID tests if you moved in to the residence halls this year. So I got to learn how we diagnose individuals with different infections. And that was actually veterinary work. So I got to have kind of a broad experience working with both people and with animals. So I'll yield for any questions if anybody has any questions for me.
Right. Call to question from Senator Bender. Is there a second? There's been a second. Any objections? Okay, and without objection, we will move into a placard vote on the nominee. There's been a call for unanimous consent. Is there any objections? Then by unanimous consent, the nominee has been confirmed to the position of Director of Health and Wellness. We have exhausted our general orders and will now move back into new business. 2020-2-0002F, Dance Marathon Line Item Transfer with Senator Zastro, I believe.
Title.
There's been a motion to consider as read.
Thank you. All right. I'm just gonna talk, and is this okay? I think it's working again. Okay, so the way that budgets work, for those of you who are new, is there are specific line items that we fund, and if a club misuses those funds and they spend money allocated for one thing on another thing, then ultimately that money is theirs to pay at the end of the year. They have to make up for what they spent incorrectly. This means that every now and again, a club will change what they are intending to spend the money on after it's already been allocated, and that's a line item transfer. So we're not actually spending any money in this bill at all. We're just moving it around in dance marathon stuff. If it's less than $500, the finance director can do it by themselves. If it's between $500 and I think $2,000, maybe it's $2,500, then the finance committee can do that. Anything more than that has to come to Senate. So this is, we're not going to wait for tonight. We'll see this again next week. But just in general, that's what these are. So Dance Marathon is moving money from Tealgate to Spring Fall recruitment for 3 different categories. If you have any questions about this bill, you can ask them now, or you can direct them to me, Finance Director Class, or Senator Bender.
Are there any questions of intent for Senator Zastro?
But
Okay, seeing
just
none, we will
in
cease to go
general,
next
that's
week.
what these
We will
are.
now move into closing announcements. If there is no objection from the body, I will ask Diversity and Inclusion Director Lauren Perk to introduce herself to the body since she has arrived.
Okay. Hi again. My name is Lauren Perk. I'm a senior majoring in animal science pre-vet. This will be my second year on student government cabinet, and I'm really happy to be a part of this organization again. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So now we are in closing announcements. So if any senator wishes to offer a closing thought, they may raise their placard, and we will do so. And we will adjourn after there are no more announcements. Okay, so I will go straight to Vice Speaker Gonzalez.
Hi guys, I just want to say thank you again for voting me as your vice speaker. I'm looking forward to getting the mentee mentor program getting set up. And if you have any questions about it, just let me know. I will be sending a Google form out soon, so check your emails for that.
And I will offer my thoughts before Speaker Ludwig. Just as a quick point of clarification, or a plea for compliance, I guess, is if normally people like to stand around and talk after the Senate meeting to catch up, talk about what happened. If you could please, while the weather is nice, do that outside. It will give the MU staff a chance to clean up the room, as well as kind of avoid being indoors with each other any more than we have to. So, and that is all I have. Speaker Ludwig.
Right. So first of all, thank you for electing me to be your speaker. I'm really looking forward to this year. Just a couple notes to go through. One, look out for the Rules Committee application that's going to go out later this week. For those of you who don't know, Rules Committee is the committee that kind of works with the bylaws generally in student government. So I guess if you're interested in digging through that, I think 46-page document and fine-tuning it and tweaking it and putting additions onto it, then you might be interested, and I'll detail more in the email when I send it out. Second, I really just want to encourage you all to speak up. If you have any questions or anything, don't be afraid to ask, and if you're kind of a little nervous, maybe just throw out the call to question or a UC or something, don't be afraid to speak up. You were all elected to represent your constituents, so you're trusted with that, and your voice matters in this room. So I just want you guys all to hear that. And then, obviously it's going to be a difficult year in terms of us getting to know each other. I encourage you to, come to the student government office. We do have a capacity of 6, but if there's space, you can be in there socially distant. There's ways or space outside of the office that you can also be. I think it's really important to get to know your fellow senators and the members of cabinet so that we can work together and do the most that we can for students this year. And just last, I'm really looking forward to this year. I think there's a lot of big things to handle, but I think we can handle it. So go Cyclones. Move to adjourn.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Any objection? We are adjourned.